One term is in the Constitution, and that's why we are elected for 5 years. And you cannot refuse, if Kenyans have voted you out, to stay in power against their wish. And at the same time, you cannot use unfair means to be re-elected. Everything should be on the table. Secondly, when it comes to health, the biggest problem with the SHA is the procurement of this equipment, which was 104 billion, which all of us are still paying up to today, and that payment has not been processed appropriately, and there's not enough information on it. First of all, that particular procurement was not done openly. It was, done without following the due process of law. And I have several examples in Makueni. Right now, I have one case in Kenyatta where the people had paid for SHA properly. They had a bill of 650,000. The SHA has only paid 100,000, and I'm struggling with the family to raise 550,000. That's not properly closed. And secondly, we must come up with a system which is workable for Kenyans, because the current one has issues, beginning with the procurement of this 104 billion. That's where the problem begins. We must sort it out. I'm sure that particular instrument doesn't cost that much. It must be much cheaper. And that's one of it. The second one is to reduce the cost of living. You can see what has happened with this fuel business. Yeah. There is a lot of secret borrowing in this country. Where it's hard prices. You cannot blame the world prices, because the prices in our surrounding neighbors is much lower for fuel. And you cannot blame the war in Israel for high.
Makueni Senator Dan Maanzo has underscored the need for constitutional and institutional reforms, advocating for a system of governance that is more transparent, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of ordinary Kenyans. Speaking on Citizen TV Daybreak Show, the senator states that while the Constitution allows for presidential term of 5 years, leaders must accept electoral outcome when voted out by the people. He reaffirmed the opposition's commitment to championing a system that works for all Kenyans. Senator Maanzo pointed to ongoing issues in the Statehouse affairs and SHA docket, rising fuel prices, and opaque government borrowing as evidence of an urgent need for accountability and transparency in public administration. He criticized what he termed as a governance culture marked by secrecy and lack of public consultation, particularly in critical sectors like energy, where decisions significantly impact the cost of living. Addressing the role of young people in Kenya's political future, Maanzo encouraged the youth to actively participate in the electoral process, not only as voters, but also through meaningful roles such as working with the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission (IEBC). He noted that serving as a polling clerks or in other electoral position or IEBC-related roles offer young people an opportunity to protect democracy from within and ensure credible, transparent election. On matters on national cohesion, Maanzo acknowledged the persistent problem of tribalism in Kenyan politics and society. He emphasized the importance of recognizing diversity as a national strength rather than a division. He pointed to the recent impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as a process marred by tribal influence and political manipulation, including allegation of bribery in a parliament. According to him, such incidents highlight the need for reform that protect democratic process from ethnic and financial interference.
Of tribalism. And therefore, yes, and therefore we are different communities, different tribes, but who come together, and our diversity is our strength. Okay. And therefore we are one nation. That's the first one. Right. Secondly, you cannot gang people from holding opinions, to please certain political quotas. The truth of the matter is the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua was tribalized and also was motivated by bribery within, in Parliament, and therefore, for an election, whether this by-election or the national election, it begins with the registration as voters. And that's why we are encouraging as many young people as possible, first to register as Kenyans, and secondly, register as voters. Registration of voters should be continuous. And one of their tasks, which they should be approving as a matter of urgency, is the registration of voters, which should start now, should start today. And ordinarily, before a main drive, it runs at every headquarter of a constituency that any voter can go there and register as a voter. Because the moment you are disadvantaged as a community, which is what has been happening, or the moment the government does not register people evenly, and that's what happens generally to the eastern region or Ukambani region, that when it comes to the registration of Kenyans, there will be delays or IDs will be held till the election has passed, and then the IDs are released, and those Kenyans are denied an opportunity to register as voters. So first and foremost, we must have a voters registry which is cleaned up. We have over dead million voters, and in the past, in the rigging of elections, dead people were voted, and we have evidence of that effect. I am one of the active lawyers in election petitions, and that evidence comes quite often. So we want them to clean up that and to make sure that they are free and fair elections. They should not be biased in any way, and they should be given sufficient funds to be able to deliver credible elections. They must also monitor and make sure that the government does not use its undue influence and influence, elections in any manner. They must deliver and make sure that they are not held at ransom by the government at any particular time. The position is a very tough lady, and that she's going to be faced off. This is irresponsible and recklessness. We are aware also there is a commissioner who was sneaked through, the back doors. That's only one commission. And I think the commissioner, 90% or so, is good and is likely to deliver credible elections. We know the chairman is a very serious young man and has a very serious track record of perfection in his work. And I believe the chairman should steer away from politics, and the rest of commission steer away from such talk. And make sure that no election is stolen. And I'm happy President Ruto has said, if I lose this election, I'll go home, farm, and support the rest of the country, so that the country succeeds. And I think also there's something the IBC needs to take note of, and the young people of this country to take note of. When I was in university, I worked for the then IBC those days as a, polling clerk. ECK. Yeah. A lot of university students will be hired as polling clerks. So beginning with this by-election, the IBC, and that's why it should be funded properly. We should clear the debt it has so that they don't bog them down, the pending bills. The young people should know that there are a lot of opportunities during the election to work for IBC as polling clerks, as people, there will be so many other jobs there. There will be voters, voter educators. There's a lot of work the agencies can do with the IBC, and the IBC should accommodate them so that they become part of it. And they also make sure the election is not stolen, because there will be constituting like 60–70% of the workforce of IBC. And because they want a new Kenya, that's the best place to work now during the by-election and during the main election, and make sure even in Wajir a credible election is delivered. And this Wajir member of parliament is sent home by our competitor.